Have I taken things too far? This was supposed to be a quick, like, 1-2 week project. Oh, what have I done? What have I done?
Yep, that's me. I made a Celeste mod. And aside from some minor hiccups on the way,
No!
it was a pretty good time. But let's back up for a second. Why am I making this video? Over the years, I've received numerous requests to livestream my mapping process, and I've always been a bit reluctant. There's a couple reasons for this. The first reason is admittedly a selfish one. I don't want to reveal projects I'm working on because I enjoy watching people experience it blindly. So obviously if I live streamed on a public platform, this will spoil the map for anyone who watches. The second reason is simply because I don't think I'm very entertaining while mapping. A lot of the process is just long stretches of silence or me muttering incoherently while trying to solve a problem, so it's not exactly great content. But after thinking about it a bit more, I realized there was a way around both of these issues. If I just recorded everything privately, cut out all the monotonous parts, and then released the video after the map was finished, I could show the full process without spoiling anything, and hopefully make it interesting to watch as well, so that's how this came to be. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a departure from my previous video essays, but I hope it's still interesting and entertaining to watch. So with all that being said, let's just hop straight into it. I started this map in mid-October after realizing I haven't touched the Celeste map editor, LON, in well over a month because I was too busy obsessing over Silksong. So I opened LON, started recording in OBS, and then just threw random ideas at the wall to see if any of them stick.
I think I want to make a map that gives the player enough agency and teaches them enough about its mechanics so that, like, every move is more calculated and every move feels like I am doing this for a reason instead of just I am doing this because it is very clearly telegraphed, if that makes sense. So I think with this mindset, it's very it's more than likely that this map will end up being slightly more puzzly. That was one of my biggest personal gripes with City of Broken Dreams. It feels like you're just doing things because the level's telegraphing for you to do them, instead of you're doing things as like a conscious decision because you know what you need to do to beat the level. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think that's where I want to take the direction of this map, but that's literally all I have in mind. I don't have many other ideas. So I think I'm just gonna start putting things down on a canvas and see if it sticks, because this is what I do pretty often if I don't have any ideas.
So that's it. A map that focuses on allowing players to make meaningful decisions and think deeply about the mechanics that are taught. So with that in mind, I began messing around with some mechanics in LON. This is where I found some interesting interactions.
Oh, you can't dash through that. What? Hold on, what? Weird interaction. So like mechanic combinations I'm looking for here are, oh wait, whoa, what? What? Hold on, what? Okay, this is admittedly kind of cool, but I don't think it's enough to create a map off of. This feels like something you would do for a berry room. Like imagine like a red patient booster. Wait, this actually moves you, doesn't it? This can totally be like a stupid little like dance revolution. That's so stupid. Okay. Patient boosters are an interesting idea, because inherently they provide a lot of safety and give you a lot of time to like think, but if I want the gameplay to like have a sense of flow, then I need to make sure that you can't stay in it forever, right? Otherwise that would break the sense of flow in your gameplay. Oh. That's a really funny interaction. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really funny, though. Dream Zip Movers and Dream Refills could be interesting. I'm sure this has been done before. I can't actually think of a map off the top of my head that, like, super focuses on combining, like, Dream Blocks and Dream Refills as, like, a primary idea, where it's, like, Dream Blocks become an obstacle with a Dream Refill.
I also tried a few other mechanics, like gravity helper switches and these bubble dash blocks that can reform, but none of them had too much synergy between them, which is what I'm looking for in mechanics. So naturally, I ulted and started brainstorming ideas that can be achieved through custom code.
Maybe I can like custom code one of these, like, it'll be a mechanic inspired off of this dash block, this respawnable dash block, except if you hit it while you're in a dream state, maybe it like shatters as well? I don't know. That might be interesting. Maybe it shatters but you still bounce back, I mean, ideally. Well, okay. Here's the thing, right? I don't think, like, visually, it's going to be really hard to get these dash blocks to actually look good at my level. So I think more than likely, I'm going to be remaking this entity. Not this exact entity, but like something similar to it, inspired by it.
I also took this time to brainstorm some theming ideas in terms of decorations. The goal here was to create something that looked nice, but not necessarily super innovative, because I wanted to primarily focus on gameplay still.
Maybe it's the Silksong brain rot kicking in, but I have kind of a vision. It's like a deep forest, like a dark forest, with a lot of like minor like neon mushrooms or like lights along with it. We have a lot of broken like man-made things. I'm thinking like gears, clocks. I don't know, I feel like there could be some interesting world building behind that. It's like, how did this like force end up in this state where there's like so many like man-made objects or metals just laying around?
With the general theming established, I started creating some gameplay as a proof of concept for the current entity palette I had.
You could literally do a jump out of here, can't you? You can. That's a pretty tricky input, though. You can also buffer a jump out of the booster. This could be pretty tough to map with, I think. Just because if I don't embrace the fact that you can jump out of these dudes, and that's something that I'll need to be conscious that like you can always cheese, and that might make life harder down the line for me. I think I might be trying too hard to use red boosters. Maybe I will abandon that idea for now. Okay, wait, that feels longer than 0.8 seconds. Have we hit like a lower limit of how quickly this thing can respawn? We have. That's really interesting. I'm guessing if I put it at 0, it's still going to take this long to respawn. Oh. What? What? Okay, the invincible block. What the fuck? I'm thinking I make a variation of these blocks. I'm thinking that can be kind of a, it's not like a super crazy custom mechanic, but it can be like kind of a supporting one in a way. Let me open a paint file for this. Okay. Okay. This is so stupid. So, visually, I'm thinking it'll be like neon blue. Maybe it'll have like little mushrooms popping out, and then when you break it, they become like little mushroom spores or something. Customizable respawn time. If you dream dash through it and you hit another solid, you reflect off of it instead of continuing. Colliding during dream dash will cause player to bounce. Or maybe, what if these just act as reverse dream blocks when you try to dream dash through them? I think like the behavior should be consistent, right? So like if you have a normal block and then you have this block, right? And you have Madeline, she dream dashes through this. So then it would naturally make sense for she should also hit this, try to dream dash through, and then immediately reflect her back out, right? And the block should also break in that process. If the rules are consistent, it will make the mechanic much more intuitive and easy to learn. But adding more interactions can create more potential for synergy. But I don't think it's worth adding more interactions if it comes at the cost of making the mechanic less intuitive and more difficult to learn. Imagine one setup I immediately have off the top of my mind is like, you have like a Dream Zip mover, and I don't know, maybe it's like returning back up, and then on the side here, you just have blue block. And then you can just go like, whoop, 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 or like the idea is like you need to like time your dashes against the blue blocks and not these black blocks, right? So that you don't fucking die. Now I'm imagining like synergies, like what if we don't even have the concept? Oh man. No. We're getting kind of stupid here now. I was thinking like what if we don't even have the concept of like Dream Zip movers? Instead we just have like floating tracks. And then somehow you can like move these onto the floating tracks and they start behaving like a zip mover. How would that even work? I mean, first of all, like these blocks can't move, so that's one issue. I'm getting ideas, guys. Okay. I'm thinking we have... Here's my progression idea. I fear the scope of this map may be increasing as we see it live in this very moment. Okay, this is our starting palette. Dream refills. And then we introduce Dream zippers. And then finally, we introduce Dream refills plus Dream blocks plus Dream zippers plus respawn dash blocks plus, check this out, respawn zippers. And the holy trinity is complete. We have a progression of mechanics that are kind of built upon each other. Have I taken things too far? This was supposed to be a quick, like, 1-2 week project. It may not with this progression, but I really, really like this. Oh, what have I done? What have I done?
So now that my no longer 1 week long project's entity palette has been established, I began creating the art assets that I'm going to use in the level.
Alright, it's time to make some assets. We're gonna draw some shit, and it'll be beautiful.
I first started with the forest style grounds, which I drew in A Sprite. With style grounds, I tried to keep a few things in mind. These act as the backgrounds for each level, so the tone between different layers of the style ground shouldn't vary too wildly as to not introduce visual clutter. You can see games like Silksong embracing this rule by increasing the blur of its background elements to help visual clarity. I swear I've played other games, just let me mention Silksong one last time, okay?
Any chance I could ask a question about an area you've explored? Yeah. Last thing I want to do is get in trouble.
After drawing the forest, I implemented the layers in-game, adding parallax to each layer, which essentially means it scrolls at different speeds when you move across the screen, creating a sense of depth. I also added some standard effects work onto the style grounds, such as adding layers of semi-transparent mist to create more separation between foreground and background. I added some particle effects with falling leaves at different depths, and also did some color adjustments. Oh yeah, there we go. See, that looks pretty nice, right? Okay. This is good progress. This is very good progress. Next on the assets list, I set up the foreground tile set as a recolor of Flagpole OneUps rock and grass tile set. The colors for this one was particularly tricky for me to adjust because I wanted to create a high contrast effect between the shadows and the highlights on the tile set, while making it visually clear. After some tweaking, this was the final color palette I went with. After the tile set was done, I moved on to creating the decals for the level, and this is where a more concrete vision for the level's theming was established. Instead of going for generic metal scraps, I was partially inspired by the concept of a singing forest, so I decided to go with a theme of instruments. Additionally, I created decals for foliage, plants, and mushrooms, and made background and foreground variations to create further sense of depth and variety between layers. With most of the deco work set up, I moved on to the coding portion for the main mechanic, which are these mushroomy reform blocks.
It's time to code our mechanic. The most exciting part of the day. I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to include, because presumably most people don't want to watch a person typing for like 2 hours straight.
And I was so right, that shit was boring and I did not talk. You only get keyboard ASMR. Anyways, here's some mid-progress updates. So right now this is pretty much just a normal dash block. And now let's open the game and see if it crashes spectacularly. Hold on. Ooh, okay. Interesting. I feel like I should check O just in case. O-U-T. That is not... That's a word? Okay, well, learned something new today. Okay, maybe T-U... Maybe E-R, like... U-T-U... Tuber? Oh, what? No way. I'm goated? Okay. Celeste still isn't done loading. Oh my god, dude. So, after that little detour, I locked in. Alright. Nice. It works like a oh shit, it's permanent. Haha! I'm fucking tired, dude. It is 4:50 a.m. Oh my god. Alright, I'm going to sleep. Good. So, after destroying my sleep schedule, I came back the next day to finish up visual polish on the entity and create the zip mover variation I initially planned. Unfortunately, I don't really have much footage with me talking here since I was just kind of locked in the whole time, so this mini compilation is all you're getting. Now, I cut it down here, but this polishing process actually took me a whole 2 days to complete, which was way longer than I initially expected. With that behind us, the only thing left now was to create the danger sprites for the spikes and spinners, and after that, we'll finally be ready to start mapping. I don't think those spikes stand out enough. I definitely want the spinners to stand out. I'm thinking of recoloring one of Spooky's spinners. That is quite busy with the deco. Yikes. That does not look good. Oh shit, that looks ugly as f. They're like fucking coronaviruses. Dude, what if we made it like pinkish though? Oh my god, it's like roses. Oh, I kind of fuck with that. It also like stands out a lot. It's very busy, but since it stands out so much in color, it kind of works. IMHO. And then, lastly, spikes. I wonder if reflection spikes will just work. Oh my god, they kind of do. It is actually kind of the perfect color palette. It's a little bit off. Do I bother recoloring? I'm gonna recolor it. I have my fucking OCD. Like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. But I generally like to have my spinners and spikes. Either I go with the default spikes, or I have the spikes match the spinners colors, because I think in the player's head, they'll see the two similar color looking thing, and they'll be like, ah, they are both dangerous, right? Like, it's easier to read that way. I have to do it. It's gonna bother me if I don't. Alright, yeah, so I think one thing to keep in mind here is I did the same thing in Superfecta, but animated tiles make spikes kind of hard to see with grass and stuff. So for cases where there are going to be spikes on top, we will not be using the grassy tile set, we will just be using that, so it's easier to see. Now my only concern is with these blocks. I wonder if the mushrooms are gonna block out, but let's just see. As I started my first tutorial room for the reform blocks, I did indeed see. Oh man, I really dislike how the mushrooms, like, make the spikes hard to see. Now that I'm, like, seeing it in gameplay, this sucks. Yeah, this is way too distracting. I'm gonna make it 2 pixels tall. Is it better? Better. For sure, better. So for tutorials, generally you want to make it like quite lenient. You really don't want people to like misinterpret your tutorial, because then they might miss something that's important you want to teach. So something I do want to tutorialize, like I don't think I really need to tutorialize stream blocks, because like if you're playing this map, you know what a dream block is. I do want to make it clear that like if you go into a dream block and hit a wall, you die, which is the expected behavior, and like most players probably know that. But I feel like people who like maybe play a lot of modded might be aware of like the mechanic. In some maps you can bounce off of walls and dream blocks, and I want to make it clear that like that is not a thing in this map. I hope this will have my desired effect. The desired effect here being either a player knows that the dream block might bounce you, or they have no clue about the mechanic. If they have no clue about the mechanic, it doesn't matter. I don't need to establish the rule to them because the behavior is the same as the vanilla game. If they suspect the mechanic is there, they might attempt to dash into the dream block, hence killing them. Now, was this actually successful in conveying the message? I think it was, kind of. I don't know. You tell me. The thing I want to avoid here is like I don't want players to like accidentally run into like spikes or something and die before they see the block respawn. I want them to learn that the block can respawn here. So part of the motivation here is to make the block respawn fast enough so you don't have to really worry about that scenario happening, you know? Now for an actual gameplay room. Since I just taught that these blocks can be bounced off while dream dashing, I wanted an entire room hyper-focusing on that concept to really reinforce the lesson. Is this too much for a second room using this little technique? That's really funny. Or, yo, idea. I love me some repetition. I mean, you could just do that, which I'm also fine with, I think. Oh, maybe I do want to enforce this upright, I don't know. I don't know if there's a clean way for me to actually enforce that. I could do that. That makes it a little harder, I think. But then, like, is this upright, like, uncomfortable? Does it feel weird? Is it too tight feeling? It's fine. Yeah, this is another thing where it's like, I don't like that the touch switch is gonna be obscured behind this block. Because then you can't solve this room through the binos. You don't know what's here. I don't like this. I feel like there's a more elegant solution to this room. I don't think I should do anything weird with dream blocks here. I should probably just focus on the bounce. I can have one room focusing on the bounce. I'll have another room focusing on the fact that if you're inside them, they won't reform. That might be my next room after this one, but I need to tutorialize the bounce well enough. Actually, I guess it doesn't add much to the concept of this room, the upright strafe to the left. I don't know if I plan to like expand on that any more than I do here, so maybe I just won't keep it. What if I grab the thing again all the way back? Ooh. I don't love the left dash back either. I feel like it feels a bit uncomfortable because you barely make it. The right dash is fine, but then like the left dash, if you like don't immediately buffer, it feels like you're not gonna make it. The buffer just feels bad, I think. That's the issue. Maybe the buffer down dash is the key, dude. Buffer up dash. And just fall back down? That seems kind of boring. Maybe I should just go for the down dash again? I think that part can be a bit awkward. Okay, let me move this over because this jump at the beginning is like a little bit tight. Let me just delete all this. That one just, there's something about that doesn't feel quite good. I think it's because like this one you can like literally make it with a jump, and this one you can like barely make it. Sometimes if you're like too low, you might not even like make it at all. Like if I make this gap shorter, I feel like it's, I can try it. I can try. Oh, maybe that's not that bad. I'll just like allow you to cling onto it. And that feels way better, I think. One thing I do kind of dislike is the fact that these render in front of the player. There we go, fixed it. I realize this is like techless so far, aside from dream jumping, which is cool. Following this trend of teaching the ins and outs of the mechanic, I planned for the next room to focus on the attribute where staying inside of the block when it is broken means it can't respawn. Making this room was definitely an interesting one, and it was also the first of many times in the map where I tried to create some intentional misdirection to force the player to learn from any mistakes.
I think what I might do to start off this room is I'll show how quickly this thing can respawn. Okay, so my thought process for this is give the player like this choice, right? Like they can move up here, but the moment they try to, they're stuck. So they have to make a conscious like realization that's like, okay, I can't move out of like this thing. So I'll have to like jump up there. And just in case they don't quite realize like that's what happened, if they try to jump up here, they die as well. So I have 2 times where I'm giving them the choice and I want the player to make a conscious decision that like I'm supposed to stay within the bounds of this block. And that is the goal with this design, which I don't know how effective it will be, but hey. These first few rooms, they're gonna like, I'm gonna take it a bit slow in terms of like game flow. The player will have plenty of time to basically react and like think. As the level goes on, I will probably reduce that time, make it a bit trickier. Also, I'm definitely gonna have another room like this with zip movers, like moving the zip movers into the blocks to prevent it from respawning. I realize you literally do not need to re-hit that. But wouldn't it be so cool if I made you re-hit that somehow? It'd make the level cooler because you reused the entity one last time.
Also, fun trivia fact, if you reload in this game while you're inside a dream block, the game crashes.
Fuck! Oh my god. Every time I work with dream blocks, this shit happens. I always forget. Every single fucking time. No? Okay, thank god. I really need to stop pausing in dream blocks. I literally never learn.
So, moving things along a bit, I would love to linger forever on every room, but unfortunately I would also like for this video to be completed before 2027, so I'm just going to do some post-commentary on rooms that I didn't have a lot of live commentary for. The third room's goal was to familiarize the player with a more nuanced movement from the Dream Bounce mechanic. I think this might be one of the weaker rooms in the map overall, since it kind of just ended up being a test of whether you can time the dream jumps well. At the end, I once again present the player with 2 possible choices, and a temporary resting point to quickly figure out which dream block to dash into first. I think to some the solution is probably obvious, but having the ability to take off some pressure and analyze the level means that once again I'm giving the player additional agency in their choices without it feeling too overwhelming. The fourth room was designed to really push this concept of giving choices to the player, and in my mind acts as a sort of checkpoint for the level design, as of saying this is the type of design that you might expect from the rest of the map. It was important to me to leave certain parts of this level open. There are mistakes I want the player to make to understand that they've made a mistake and reframe the level in their mind to figure out the solution. At the same time, it was important to balance the number of choices and how demanding the execution of the level may be, because with this design philosophy, it can easily lead to very overwhelming and unapproachable rooms. Anyways, I'm rambling. Here's the last room. I quite like designing this one.
I came up with a concept idea for this room I'm going to try out. We'll see where it goes. There's like this part in Glyph Void. It's like a spring with a falling block, and there's a crumble block that you can wave dash off of. So you have the option of like either wave dashing first, which seems like the obvious choice, right? Because it's right there. But the correct option is to actually hit the spring first, so the falling block gets out of your way. Yeah, and then you can wave dash through. That's what it was. And I want to make something like that. I'm thinking maybe we can do like double dash refills, where it's like you have the choice of getting the double dash refill here or waiting to get the double dash refill. We'll see where this takes me. I'm just gonna start placing stuff down. Like, there's definitely other maps that have done this sort of concept before, where you are given a choice and part of the player's responsibility to make that decision. Okay. So, first part, right, you have 2 choices at this point. You can either dash right, which will cause you to fail,
Or if you think about this more, it's like, I want to save this double dash. Now, I think this is the part of the room that is arguably going to be the hardest to figure out, which is the very beginning, because the feedback for like getting this double dash early at the wrong time isn't like super immediate. If you do something like this, you can still make it here, right? Only here do you realize, oh shit, I need 2 dashes for this part. So I'm thinking of whether or not I can make this a little more immediate in terms of its feedback. I don't want to ruin the puzzle though. I don't want to ruin the thoughtful aspect, because I can easily like force you to like dash through spinners here, but that would mean like it's not possible for the players to like directly just down dash. I feel like that's kind of lame. So I'm half tempted to just like leave this in as like a bit of a puzzle to figure out. I'll see how my playtesters handle this part. If they have a lot of trouble figuring it out, I might do some stuff to try to make it more intuitive. But right now, this is a bit of like a micro puzzle. I think I'm fine with it being like that. I think just based off of my experience mapping in the past, like it's really, really easy for the mapper to see the solution. But a lot of players will play the level and they'll be like, I can't figure this out, because they will pigeonhole themselves into thinking like their solution is the correct one, right? So like someone might just keep trying something like this over and over again and not realizing it's not going to work. I don't think the ending will be too difficult to figure out, especially if you figure it out at this beginning. Like here you only have 2 choices, right? You can go right on the top one, or you can go right on the bottom one. And even if you like go right on the top one instinctually, you will realize that like that's not going to work, because you need double dashes for this part. This part's very obvious that you need 2 dashes for. Okay, I'm gonna enforce this now. Spinners, and foreground tile time. Yippee! I really like this room. Definitely my favorite one I've made so far, I think. With my motivation renewed, I decided to move on to the next phase of progression in this map, where I introduced the dream refill. I also decided around this time to commit fully for the map to be techless, since I've already made 5 or 6 rooms at this point and none of it contained tech. Dream jumps don't count. I see you typing your comment.
Now, how do I want to introduce this dream refill mechanic? I think there's 2 things I want to teach. Actually not more than 2 things.
First of all, like dream refill through normal block, dream refill through dash block bounces you, dream refill through dream block kills you, dream refill through normal block into dash block bounces you, right? I think with these 4 things, I'll make the first 3 things you learn in this room, and then next room can be dream refill through a normal block into a dash block will bounce you. It would admittedly be really funny if I allowed you to take a dream refill back here. You go through it and you just come back to this room and now you're fucking stuck here. I'm not gonna do that, but I think that would be really funny. Since dream refills are quite central to this map's mechanic palette, I wanted a strong tutorial that introduces and teaches them properly, so I split the tutorial into 3 sections. The first one teaches the basic interaction of dashing through solids. I intentionally restrict player options here, so the only viable solution is to try dashing directly into the solid, allowing the mechanic to be learned through force experimentation. In the second section, I introduce dream blocks to establish dream dashing into them will kill you. If the player already knows this, great, they can avoid it. If not, their most instinctive response is probably to dash straight into it, and then immediately discover that this was a terrible idea and walk away with the lesson permanently ingrained into their brain. Sometimes, mild emotional damage can be pretty effective. Don't quote me on that. The final section similarly establishes that reform blocks will reflect the player upon Dream Dash. By this point, the behavior hopefully feels intuitive since it's consistent with the previously established logic of this block. The next room also doesn't really have much live commentary, but luckily I don't have as much to say on this room. Here I established that Dream Dashing through a solid and colliding with a reform block will produce the same outcome as a Dream block. Because this movement arc and logic is consistent, I feel that this would be a simple interaction to pick up, but still important to make explicit early early on so it can be expanded upon later. Something to note is that these sets of rooms are meant to teach the player while trying to avoid overwhelming them with too many concepts at once, although balancing this information density is always difficult, due to players being at different skill levels. For players that have never seen the Dream Refill mechanic, I think this can be pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of new interactions introduced in quick succession. You'll see that the next couple of rooms don't really do anything new, but mainly focuses on reinforcing the same concepts so the player can get used to it. Tutorial design is a really complex topic on its own, so this is just a brief look at how I might approach onboarding a complex mechanic like this. Anyways, with all that being said, I quickly did some visual polish by reskinning the switch gates to match closer to the level's color palette, and then moved on to the next room. I'm just gonna start making you do moves, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Like, imagine that, but you have to like avoid the refill, right? Or else you're not gonna be able to pass through the dream block anymore. This is gonna be tricky to make work, I think. I don't even know if it's possible with this current setup. Damn. I realized I can't really enforce this path. Not without making it feeling really bad, because there's like no space here. Oh shit. The path that's overlapping here is way too close. Maybe I'll just abandon this idea. I could use jump throughs, but man, I don't know. I never liked spamming sideways jump throughs. I always think it adds a lot of clutter to levels that is not necessary a lot of the times, and it can actually make things more confusing. And like, I want the player to think, but not in like this way, if that makes sense. It just feels dirty. Yeah, I don't know if this is like even a good puzzle. I feel like it's not super well designed. No, this is not well designed at all. You need to go fast enough before this comes back, and having like this additional dependency actually just raises the complexity way too much for like not a good reason. I don't know if that made any sense. It made sense in my head. Like, that's much simpler, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that being much simpler. I forgot. I forgot to do my own level. This is pretty challenging. I wonder if this is almost too hard at this point. I kind of hope it isn't. What's another interesting little bit I can create out of this? I want to reuse this block one last time here. I think that would be fun. Hit that, come back, and then the gimmick is you can't use the dream block again. But I need a reason as to why I need to break this. What if it just extends down? Haha! I have found a solution. Alright, let's see if this works. I forgot how to do my own room. I forgot how to do my own room again. God damn it. Yes. Yes. Let's use it one last time. I keep on forgetting. Alright. I quite like this room that I made. I think it's not like super crazy, like rowdy heavy, but you do need to pause and think probably for a moment. It's like, what do I do here? I'm very curious to how the reception to this map is going to be, because I think it's going to be less accessible. It's going to be more like methodical. I think some people are going to like it more. I think some people are going to like it less, and that's fine. I kind of like experimenting with different playstyles like this. I have a lot of fun doing it. At this point, I'd finished 3 rooms dedicated to teaching and reinforcing reform blocks and dream refills, so honestly, if the player still doesn't get it, that one's on them. For this next room, I wanted to start playing with some of the weirder interactions, specifically the interactions with vertical dream dashes into reform blocks instead of just horizontal. Simultaneously, I also attempted to explore the dream refill and dream block interaction, but it wasn't exactly panning out the way I hoped it would. Halfway through making this room, I don't really love it because it feels like 2 completely separate ideas. Like, I have this pretty interesting setup here. Like, you clearly have to break this block, right? But you can't, because when you dash up into these blocks, it like pushes you upwards even more, and you'll just faceplant into the spikes. So you can't avoid this. So the way you get around this is you grab a dream dash crystal, and that changes the behavior here, so you like end up doing that, and then now you can like make it up here. But
then I started making this bullshit where it's like, ooh, I have a dream crystal, you have to like react quickly. It's like, do I hit the dream block or do I hit the normal block? Like when you go up here, it's like, I can go left or right, right? So which one's the right solution? And like that's fun, but it feels like a completely separate idea. So I think what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna yoink this, I'm gonna move it to this room, and we're gonna make this room later. Because I do want to keep this idea, but we're gonna I'm gonna try and keep building off of this. Because I'm thinking like the left and right behaviors aren't too different with a dream dash. You just get like a further distance, right? But the up behavior is also unique. Up as in like you dash down, you get bounced back up. In the dream dash, you would get way more height, right? The thing is, how do I enforce something like this? Okay, one second, I want to keep this like whole setup and concept. I'm gonna modify this beginning a little. So idea is like, how do you get that, right? The solution is like you go up here, break that. What if I just make this room go down even more? Because then I can just directly chain into this next setup, right? Are we cooking? No, we're not cooking because this goes up. I have negative IQ. This kind of feels like filler gameplay, but that's okay. Not every input needs to be super meaningful. This room might be easier than the last one, but it's fine. I don't think every room needs to have like a strict difficulty progression upwards.
And with that, we move on to the final room of this dream refill section where I took that previously scrapped idea and expanded it to a full room. This room is meant to properly explore the dream blocks kill you when dream dashing interaction, which up to this point had only really existed in the tutorial and nowhere else. I wanted to push that concept further instead of just letting it fade into the background. Most of the design process here was basically me coming up with different scenarios where the player has to make split-second decisions. Do you dash into the dream block or the normal one? Do you keep this dream dash or should you get rid of it? While doing this, I was also intentionally keeping the level design open to leave space for mistakes. To me, that's where most of the learning can happen. When the design lets you fail and you figured things out through that failure, it makes your decisions to do certain actions feel more meaningful. That being said, after creating the room, I did have a few concerns. I really like the concept of this room. I just don't know how difficult it will be to read. It might be kind of trial and error coded, depending on how fast your reaction times are, but I think that's something to be determined during playtesting. Maybe I'll try playing this room in mirror mode. That might not be a bad idea. Yeah, I think the thing I'm going for this map isn't like unreadability. My goal is to make it so that like players are consciously thinking of every action they make. And part of that might mean like the map is a little more difficult to like parse for some people. I want my gameplay to feel like there's meaning to it instead of it's just like a Rube Goldberg slop, you know what I mean? And I think people like it, right? Like the thing is that the truth of the matter is people like it when their gameplay is easy to digest and like they can figure it out in an instant. It's a very popular form of gameplay and it's gonna stay that way. So I think this room desperately needs camera. I think I want to see this with camera to see if like this is actually reasonable to react to. This might not be reactable. And I could remove the jump throughs here. When I remove the jump throughs here, you could save it, right? So like even if you get this, you could like do that. I think I'm gonna allow that. I'm gonna purposely allow that. Just because that part would be so like trial and error focused otherwise. Alright, I think this room is pretty much complete. Not 100% sure how well this ending will be received. People might be really frustrated with it, but we'll see. That's what playtesting's for. So at this point, everything seems to be going pretty well. The map is roughly halfway done in terms of mechanics and progression, and I've been quite satisfied with most of the gameplay so far. It was also around this point that I decided to think a bit about music. So, status update. I realized I needed music, and I still haven't figured that out yet. I want custom music for this. I think initially my first thought was Green Path. Like just do Green Path from Hollow Knight. But I don't know if Green Path perfectly captures everything I want this map to feel. I think it'd be really cool if I could get like one of my friends or someone to make some custom music for it. So I'm gonna reach out to TyKim, I think. That was like the first person I had in my head. Maybe it's the Super Effectus Checkpoint 2 sort of vibe. But that was the first person I immediately thought of. I was like, oh, this person would be perfect to make music for this. So I think I'm going to reach out to TyKim and ask if they are available. Be really cool if I could get them on board with this. Music aside, I had also spent some time thinking about how to introduce the final two mechanics, which at this point I had planned for it to be Dream Zip Movers and Reform Block Zip Mover variations. But the more I thought about this, the less I was convinced it was the right approach. I was thinking, okay, so like next is I need to introduce Dream Zip Movers. And I'm fine with mapping it with Dream Zip Movers. I think I actually really like Dream Zip Movers as an entity. But then I was thinking a little more, like what the hell can I make with these zip movers? Like not Dream Zip Movers, but these things as zip movers. And I realized I don't think I can make that much with it. I can't like think of anything that interesting. This is basically a normal zip mover, right? Except you dash on it, it breaks. Now let's say you break it, what happens now? Like it doesn't reform until it pretty much comes back, right? It just feels like I can't do anything with this. Does that make sense? Like I feel like this is like a glorified normal zip mover and it doesn't offer any other parts that make it stand out. What makes zip movers interesting? One of the most like highlighted parts of zip movers is the fact that is the momentum they give, right? Like you can jump off of it. But then the fact that this block can break and cancel your momentum with like the break rebound, right? Like when you hit this like Madden like rebounds like that like cancels all momentum you have, right? So that like directly goes against one of like the core tenets of what makes a zip mover fun, right? So like if you're like holding onto the side, it's like you can let go, but in this case, if you want to like break and let go and get the momentum, you can't, right? You either have to like break it and lose all your momentum, and like it's now uncollidable, so you can't do anything with momentum there, or you have to let go and now it's just a normal fucking zip mover. Like the only other interaction you can really do is like, oh, you hit it, you hit it through a dream block and it activates it, right? But now it's uncollidable, right? So what the fuck can you even do with this? I can't do anything with this, right? Unless I make it respawn really quickly, in which case I might as well like have this set up. Instead of like having it in two locations, I might as well just do this. It's the same thing, right? Right? It's literally the same thing. I just extend the block. Like, I'm rambling. The gist of it is, I don't think I can make interesting gameplay with this. In my initial like design stage, I was too focused on the synergistic element of, oh, we're zip mover-fying everything, right? But I didn't really think further about whether or not this gameplay would be fun to make. So, with that being said, I think at this point in the map, I am roughly 50% done. I have 2 more mechanics to introduce. I still want to keep this idea of like, as you go into the second half, things start moving around more and it feels a little more dynamic. I'm going to make an executive decision here as the only person who is in charge of this map. I am canning the zip movers idea, and instead, we're going to move blockify everything. That's my idea. I think instead of doing zip movers, we do dream move blocks as the first introduction of this checkpoint. I will turn these dudes also into move blocks. This entity as a move block would be way more interesting, and the reason why I say that is because move blocks have a property of being collidable. Imagine you have a wall here and this thing's moving to the right. Right? It's like, oh shit, I need this guy on the other side of the wall. How do I get it there? Oh wait, I can just break it and it becomes uncollidable and we can go through the wall and then you can use it again. And then another sort of like thing to expand on that, like we can make the rules consistent, right? If it's broken and it's going through like this long wall, maybe you just can't reform at all. You know, maybe you can even play a game where like you have a bunch of like fucking dream move blocks like going up here, right? In this direction, it's moving up, like it's like going up, and you need to like get all of these like in the way so this thing doesn't reform. I don't know, there could be like some interesting ideas to play with there for sure. It's gonna be pretty interesting watching this video back. I'm kind of excited to see that. With that long ramble over, my executive decision has passed with unanimous agreement, and I immediately began to map for the third portion of the map where dream move blocks are introduced. Alright, yeah, nothing crazy here. I don't think this tutorial needs to be super in-depth. I think this is a pretty intuitive mechanic to figure out, even if you've never seen it before. So make a room, a pretty simple room just based off of bouncing off of the thingies, but with a move block. Like, can I actually force you to move this way? I think I can, right? There's nothing really stopping me from just adding spinners. You better not be able to clear this with like a reverse super or some shit. Oh fuck, you might be able to, hold on. Fuck. Okay, this is fixable. I can just do boop. There you go. Fuck you. Don't choose my levels. Just try this a couple of times to see if there's any variability at all. Okay, that seems a little close for comfort. I have a vision. I'm starting to see a vision. What if I make this right? Oh, fuck. My plan has failed. No. Oh. Do you see this movement? Do you see the flow of this movement? Hold on. Let me cook. Okay. That's pretty cool. Idea. Dodge the dream refills. Okay. I kind of wish their hitboxes were smaller. Is there a way for me to make their hitboxes smaller? I doubt it. This current position works, I think. Like, you can't stay up here. Yeah. Alright, this room definitely has less of a central theme than I initially wanted it to, but it's okay. I don't think every room necessarily has to have like a super strong theme or centralized idea to it. It's just fun. I enjoy that type of gameplay, but it doesn't mean I have to have it every time. I feel like there's quite a few rooms in this map that's just like, it's a room with some interesting like setup, but doesn't really have like a centralized identity. And I'm fine with that. Totally fine with that. What do I want this room to be about? I have a setup idea. I'm not sure if I can make consistent. Okay. That doesn't work. That's fine. We could probably make some funny back and forth business with this. Now, is this cheesable is a question. Oh, you can just do that. God damn it. Hold on. I don't know how to enforce this. I don't think I can. It's a cool move, but okay. We're ditching the setup. It's cool. It's a cool move. Let it be known I tried this. But I think even if I did figure out a way to enforce it, it would be way too convoluted for me to actually like it, you know? I generally try to avoid like super convoluted ways to like enforce things, just because I feel like a lot of the times it will make the level just like feel worse and like become less readable. Like I feel like there's already quite a bit of nuance in this type of move here anyway, so I'm fine with it being the way it is. What if I just make you fucking fly, dude? I feel like this is not a good idea. Okay, I have emptied my bowels and had a mini brainstorming session, and I've come up with nothing, but I have come up with another room idea, which I will make after this one. I want this room to be about basically move blocks that instantly break. I think there's some potential there. It could almost act as like one-use stream blocks in a way. I still don't know what to do here though.
I'm getting really tired, so I'm starting to think it might just be better to leave this for tomorrow. Okay, how many rooms do I want in this part? Maybe 1, 2, 3, and like one more after this, and then the final part with all the mechanics combined have like 6 or 7. I really dislike what I have here. I think it's too complicated and convoluted. And I don't think it's really like a meaningful puzzle that like you really need to think about. It's just kind of like do the moves. I mean, it works. Wonder how intuitive this is. I think the most like nuanced part of this room is that first part, the timing, and also here where you need to be fast. I want to avoid that being possible, so here's what I'm gonna do. That's such a lame way to do it, though. Can I do like a delayed trigger spike? Oh, this is so lame. This is so lame. I've never done this before. This is like so close to working. It kind of hurts me. Okay. Well, this room turned out okay. The only part I don't like is the fact that I need to use a time trigger spike, but I can't think of a better way to... I can't think of like another way to enforce the ending without making it feel really bad. I wonder if it's even possible to die from hitting the rocks. What the fuck? It's really hard to. The ending is basically just a free little cinematic. Sometimes you just want to make the player feel cool. I tend to do that sometimes at the end of rooms. That's my little secret.
By the way, these last 3 rooms were all made and decoed in a single session, which makes this probably the top 3 generational lock-ins of the past decade. But don't worry, I wasn't done yet. I had a fresh, steaming idea during my bowel movement brainstorming session, and I was itching to try it out. So the next day, I came back and started working on room 4. This room was actually quite simple to make. Essentially, a lot of the design ended up as just coming up with ways to quickly either reuse a move block as it was disappearing, or utilizing the small bit of momentum it provides to give you an additional boost. At some point, I also realized I never really tutorialized this interaction, where you get the boost from timing a jump off of a stationary move block, which is actually pretty counterintuitive if you think about it. So the solution I had for this was to simply allow the move block to move slightly. In my mind, this will make it obvious to all players that you can get additional lift boosts from this block's movement. So hopefully it was effective. And with that, room 4 was complete, and I moved on to the final room of the Dream Move Block section. Building this little intermission room here mainly so this final room of this portion can have a bit more spacing, but also I like building these little intermission rooms. I think it adds a bit of interesting world building potential. For example, I'm gonna fill this room with mushrooms just because I want to. I've also decided on a temporary name. I'm pretty happy with the name, so I think I'm gonna call it Songkeeper's Grove. Or some variation. I definitely want the word Songkeeper in there. I think the second word I'm a little less convinced to keep, but I don't think the second word matters as much to me. I just really want the word Songkeeper in there. And the reason is because I have come up with some lore in my head. What is the lore, you might ask? I'm not going to talk about it. I think whatever world building that's going to be conveyed through this will be purely environmental, because I do have kind of like a backstory going on here in my mind. I would love to see other people's interpretation of it. I think that would be really cool. Okay, perfect. Now I can like expand it up and down as much as possible. So the reason I did this is initially my thoughts were I want this room to go down, which is why I decided to add a little bit of a filler room. Okay. I changed my mind. I might want to go up for this. Dream jumping just feels good, but going down, you can't really dream jump. The thing with this room will be timing. Timing in my Celeste map. Preposterous. I had a stroke of inspiration. Hold on. We do a back and forth. It's so brilliant. I hate everything. I can't play this game, dude, because my controller keeps disconnecting in the middle of my inputs. I want the player to consciously have to pause and wait. Which sounds counterintuitive. Like, isn't Celeste all about flow? But, like, this is my way of giving some player agency, you know? If the player is able to consciously like make the decision that like, oh shit, I need to slow down, that's the goal of this room. I can't play this. Alright. I'm chill. Yes. Yes. Do you see a vision? I see a vision. Wait, I don't see a vision anymore. No! Oh god. I've created a fucking contraption, dude. I don't know what I'm doing with this. Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a case of looking cool. It's just an interesting concept that looks cool. It's not really anything that gives a player a lot of agency in what they're doing. In other words, it's more like something that you would see in like City of Broken Dreams or something like that. But I'm fine with a few of those. This entire map doesn't need to be like the most like, you know, all pure puzzly. Having some fun like this could be nice. Change up the gameplay variety a bit. Wait, this is genius. You can't dash left or right. You can only dash down or up. So, you dash up, and you have to dash back down. Oh my god, I'm fucking brilliant, dude. Boom. Now you're forced to go in here. Aha. Brutal. And then here, I don't want to have you do a down left. So, like, can I just like... That's like so stupid. Yay. Nice. And so, after one crash out, a broken controller, and some gray hairs, the dream move block section was complete, and I began working on the final section of the map, the reform move blocks. Okay, it is time to lock in. Final section, where we introduce the reform blocks. Please ignore the graphic in lawn. I was way too lazy to figure out how to make the actual texture appear. There's a lot of things I need to tutorialize from this, but first things first, let me fix this algorithm. So I think there's a few things I want to tutorialize here. The first one obviously being like this works like a normal move block. You stand on it, it gets activated. And then another thing I want to tutorialize is, okay, I think that part, it still works like a normal reform block as well. You can like bounce off of it like that. Like I want to tutorialize the fact that like if you break it, it can still keep going, right? Like I think that's important to tutorialize. Like imagine there's just a wall here. Let's just repeat this same move. Repetition always works. Amen to that. In addition, I also added 2 more tutorial interactions towards the end, using a dream dash to break the move block and gain height, as well as using a dream block to bounce off the move block. And with that tutorial done, now onto gameplay room 1. Okay, so I forgot to record this, but I was playing through the map, and I realized this room, like this little tutorial room I made, I felt like it was kind of a pretty like abrupt introduction to this mechanic without really even like building it up or hinting that it'll be a thing. You just kind of start this room like it looks like any other normal room, and then suddenly new mechanic. I felt like that would be a bit jarring, so I made a very tiny like transition room after the end of this one. I made this tiny room here, just this fun little... There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I thought this could be fun. Alright, let's cook some shit for this. I think the type of progression I want to make here is like, we just sort of introduced this idea of like, oh, you can break this move block to allow it to move through solids without breaking. I think there's more to explore here, so I'm going to make this room basically just that. And then I proceeded to not talk while making the next 2 rooms, so yeah, welcome back to post-commentary mode. This first room is entirely built around reinforcing understanding of the one core gimmick introduced previously, breaking these move blocks so they can pass through solids and be reused later. I made the ending of the room very explicit on purpose. That mess of spinners you see at the end is basically screaming at you that both move blocks are required if you want to get through. There's no subtlety at all, it's fully intentional. Another big design choice here was to keep the layout very open. In my last video I talked about actionable space versus cognitive density, but the short version is this. If your level is open, the goal has to be obvious. So instead of restricting movement, I leaned hard into making the objective clear. I think this type of design naturally inspires learning and increased player agency. When players can see exactly where they need to go, but not how to get there, it naturally leads to the question, how do I solve this? And through that, real learning and player agency can kick in. Next up is a room that acts as a bit of a breather compared to some of my previous ones. Instead of demanding a ton of player agency, this one ended up feeling much more flowy and reactive, although that wasn't my original intention. Most of the movement here is naturally telegraphed by the options available at any given moment. Blocks tend to drift towards where they need to be, and the player doesn't have to overthink every input. There are a few moments that are intentionally a little misleading just to force some quick on-the-fly decision making, but overall this room is much less about solving a puzzle and more about riding the flow. And honestly, I think this type of contrast works. If a map leans too hard into one style of gameplay, things start to feel repetitive. Dropping in a room like this, just one that lets the player feel cool for a minute, can be a pretty welcome change of pace. With these two rooms done, I started making the fourth room for this section, where I finally began to build one of my original ideas when I first conceived of this mechanic. The gimmick being to keep a reform move block alive by staying inside of it. However, I ran into some unexpected complications. What? Why am I going? Hello? Wait, do you guys see that? Why was I going down? Whoa, what the fuck? What the fuck? Is this some lift boost protection bullshit? I added lift boost protection in this room because one part was inconsistent. No, it's not. What? Why? What the fuck is setting my speed? Okay, first of all, it has to be the move block, right? Like, if the move block isn't here, then it's fine. Well, this is annoying. Now I need to dig into the code again. Honestly, my best guess so far is that when you break it, it's still like adding lift speed to the player. Now why it's adding like vertical lift speed, like downwards lift speed, I have no fucking idea. I'm gonna try setting the lift speed of the block to 0. This is a shot in the dark. We'll see if this fixes it. This might take a moment to reload. So how's your day been? Holy fuck. Oh my god, that took like a minute. Nope, that didn't do shit. Why does left dashing not? If you dash in the opposite direction that it moves, it's fine. But the moment you start dashing in the direction it moves, it's fucking broken. This is so cursed. This is so unbelievably cursed. Oh no. Let me see. What is this shit? Oh my god, it's a fucking corner correction code, isn't it? Okay, I'm almost 100% certain it's this code. Why would this part not be under the collidable check? Okay, sorry, I'm rambling. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm just confused why it would be written like this, and it's causing me grief. The move V doesn't even have this logic. It's literally just horizontal. What the fuck? It's fixed. I'm goated. They call me the modder guy. Holy shit. It was that easy. Let's go. Alright, well, that was a fucking adventure. Back to our regularly scheduled program, except I spent like an hour doing that, and now it is really late, and I should probably go to sleep in like the next 20 minutes, so I'm gonna get as much done as I can. It's probably not gonna be that much though. So purposeful stall there. I think that'll be probably a pretty tough move to figure out, so I'm going to make this next part a little more intuitive, hopefully. I think I also want to establish in this room the idea of moving maybe dream move blocks into the block to keep it from reforming. How do I enforce this? Right now the spring launches you like... Okay, I can do this actually. This is actually quite easy to enforce. Yippee! Alright. This is a work of art. I want to try making a 40 by 23 room. I think that'd be kind of fun. Kind of fun and wacky. But if it doesn't work out and I feel like I have to expand the room, then I will do it. I have like a very, very high level vague idea. There's a block here and I eventually need to use it to go up. And that sounds like a nothing burger idea, but I'm gonna try something a little different here. So it's not really like a concept, it's like this room's gonna be kind of like a puzzle, and that's gonna be the end solution to the puzzle. And I'm gonna try and work backwards from that to make this a bit of like a routing puzzle. So I'm thinking, you activate this block through here, and then you don't have a dash. Eventually, I want you to be able to like get up on this block on top of it. And then it'll allow you to like access whatever's up there. But since you do not have a dash, right now you can't do anything. I feel like I have a vision here. It's just not fully realized yet. Yes, this works, right? This is beautiful, right? I just need to figure out how to make the spinners work here.
Nope.
Oh, that sucks. Why can that happen, dude? I hate it. Nice. Okay, I think this works. God. I'm like, the room is just barely not tall enough. Basically, I need a reason for why you break the block at the beginning. And I think the easiest way to do that is to just put spinners. The next thing I could do, make it a one-way. But that looks ugly. Unless I add a touch switch. It feels like almost a bit cheap because I did so much without the use of any touch switches. And I'm gonna have to resort to a touch switch to actually enforce the room. Okay, here. I'm gonna end the room early. I wanted to reuse the reform block one more time. I'm not gonna force it. We're extending this past 40 by 23. Sorry. But it won't be until the very end. For most of this room, it's gonna be within this 40 by 23 space. Just at the very end, we're gonna move past it for the exit. I think this is a good compromise without making things super fucking convoluted. Now the question becomes, how do I enforce a path like this? I think I just do a touch switch gate mechanism here. Let's not make this super convoluted with like, I could add like start adding like sideways jump throughs, but once again, I tend to avoid that type of design. When you add like all of these things to try and enforce your level, it just makes it feel way more convoluted and difficult to figure out. And like, as a player, you like see it, it's like super fucking overwhelming as well. On this beginning needs enforcing again, because I realize you can just skip reusing the dream block here, and I really want you to reuse this dream block. What if I place it inside the switch gate? No, it's stupid. It's stupid as fuck. Why would I do that? Double switch gate. Man, this feels so much lamer. This is so much lamer. This is so lame. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's so lame. I don't think there's any world where I make this work. I might just want to rework this beginning. That feels pretty good. Ooh. I don't know, guys. This feels actually pretty good. Okay, hold on. Did I crack it? Did I crack the code? Switchgate or sideways jump through? Holy hell, what a room. Time for the playtesters to find like 15 ways to cheese this. Yeah, that was hard. That was really hard for me to make. I had a lot of trouble making this room. After struggling quite a bit with making a minimum sized room routing puzzle, I thought the worst was behind me. But as I started the next room, I once again found myself struggling to come up with gameplay that I was satisfied with. I might have also gotten a little distracted.
I don't know what to do.
Alright. Listen. I need some inspiration, okay? And I need a bit of brain rot as well. Fuck. Wait. Imagine? Watch this tech. Oh, no! What if I just reflect it, like, really hard? Alright, see this line? No! Can you just get up there? Oh my god. I'm actually gonna crash out. This really wasn't that hard of a level. I think I have performance anxiety. There we go. Wow. That was pretty shit. Nah. I'm losing the sauce here, dude. I'm losing the sauce. We're falling back into that old habit of, like, things will just work out for you if you play the level normally and you don't need to think about it. While I was fine with leaning more into the flowy, readable aspect of the level, I still wanted to avoid the black magic what the fuck is happening Rube Goldberg design that plagued City of Broken Dreams. So I simplified the rest of the room and reused a couple of concepts introduced at the beginning, and it was complete. Simple as that. At this point the map was nearly done. I had planned 2 more gameplay rooms after this one, and I already knew what I was going to do with one of them. I wanted to call back to one of my previous rooms where the concept was move blocks that broke instantly, except this new version would have the new reform move blocks as well. With that goal in mind, I began brainstorming for ideas.
How would this work? I would need to land on it. I would land on the reform block to force it to activate, and then before it breaks, I need to use it. Let's try it.
One sort of thing I'm trying to keep in mind right now is I don't want to fence off the ability for the player to make mistakes. I want to prevent the player from pigeonholing themselves from, like, constantly thinking this has to be the right solution when it's clearly the wrong solution. But I also don't want to put, like, hazards in such a way that basically instantly tell the player the right solution. Because I think part of what, like, creating player agency entails is giving players the ability to deduce that, like, oh, this is the correct thing to do versus this is the wrong thing to do. Okay. I have a very vague setup idea in my head. Yes! Oh my god. Okay. It's not quite perfect, but it barely works. Oh my god, I can't believe that actually worked. That works. Let's go, dude. It still feels a bit right skewed. Okay. My solution? Fuck the symmetry. Yeah, fuck the symmetry. I don't need the symmetry. I know I've tried this in the past and it didn't work. And I'm not sure why, because I'm pretty sure this works with normal move blocks. So, yeah, that doesn't activate it. Although I thought it should, because I swear this worked with normal move blocks, so maybe I'm tweaking. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay. Second question. Does this work? No. God damn it. Man. I'm sad that doesn't work. Right now, there's only one surefire way to activate these dudes, which is just stepping on them. Wait, or you hit a spring. Of course, static movers, it's so obvious. Did I implement that? Do I need to implement that? I actually don't know. Wait, let me check that right now. No, it doesn't. I think this is easy to implement though. Oh, it's just an override function. The fuck? I do have it. Wait, was it not attached? Am I stupid, perchance? Oh. It's because I moved it over by 1 pixel, isn't it? Okay. Wow. Fuck my life, dude. I opened my code editor for nothing. Okay. Sorry, this is a really small thing that bothers me, but I think this refill is not centered. You get this, you can't make it up here, so you have to down dash to grab this, right? There's no way you can get over here in Dream Dash. Yes. They call me the Enforcer. That was my nickname in high school. I think this room's pretty tough. Maybe the hardest room in the map. I think in Final Room I'm just gonna revisit some old ideas. Or I could make it kind of like a victory lap. Alright, I'm satisfied with this. Now comes the part where I need to enforce things and camera and deco, and that's gonna be like 2 hours at least. But we made 2 rooms today. Pretty productive day. 2 rooms in like what, 2-3 hours? It's actually pretty fast for me. And now finally, it was time for the final room of the map. Well, almost. First, I wanted a little transition room. I can, maybe if I can record me decoing one room to show what my deco process is. These bushes are super easy to place. Like, look at this. I can basically like just... and like maybe tweak it slightly. It's like that looks decent. That actually like looks decent, right? It looks like pretty natural. I think foliage in general is just like pretty easy to place. So you can just kind of like blindly click and it'll just kind of work. I try to sometimes focus on like creating some interesting shapes. I use this like dark foliage sometimes to like add some like holes. So then after you get the foliage done, I start layering. This is like arguably the most time intensive process of this map's deco, which is I decided for some stupid reason to create like these sort of complex layerings with like these like instruments. So like if I like just place it like this, it looks kind of dumb, right? There's like floating in midair. But then what you can do is like grab like a bush D and like just layer it on top of these instruments like this. And now it looks like they're like actually embedded inside the bush. And I might do some mushrooms here as well. I think the mushrooms look pretty nice. It adds a bit of like bright glow to some of these background bushes. I'm pretty careful about how I place these mushrooms. I try to make it so it's not too distracting, because I think you can really create some like distracting patterns if you wanted to. So that is something I'm like semi-conscious of while decoing. And that's pretty much all of the background stuff. And after that I move to foreground decals. And then it's similar case with the foreground decals. I tend to be a bit more conservative on like where I place the bushes for these foreground decals, because they can be a little harder to like blend in because they stand out a bit more. And then what I'll do a lot of the times is I'll grab this like dark bush and like sort of like mute the edges so it looks like it's like disappearing into the foreground. With foreground bushes, I tend to care a bit more about the structuring. Since it is brighter, it will stand out more if it looks like weird. And then along with foreground bushes, I also do plants. And something to keep in mind is in lawn you can't see it, but in game, like there's animate tiles, right? So if there's animated tiles, you don't actually need to like cover everything with these plants. It'll look decent enough without it. So this is a transition room. I can afford to be a bit more intrusive with the deco in terms of like what areas they're covering. In gameplay heavy rooms, I try to be aware. I might not be perfect, but I try to be aware of like how much deco might be like obstructing your view for the gameplay, because I never want deco to become like so much of an issue that like it obstructs a lot of gameplay. Let's just add some foreground instruments. These are same rules as the background instruments. Every map I make tends to have like a different deco process, and as you're like decoing the rooms, you kind of get a feeling of like, okay, this is how I'm gonna go about like doing the deco for this map. And this is definitely one of the more formulaic decos that take less thought. I think the most deco intensive map that I made, the one that like took the most amount of effort in terms of like how much thought I put into every part of the deco, is Area 36. That map's deco was a nightmare. I would never wish that map's deco upon my worst enemies. There was so many like small things I did for that map that like ultimately it's not like anyone noticed, you know? It's like something that only I notice and care about. But I'm still very happy with the deco for that map. Lastly is like some foreground, even more foreground effects. So like I have these parallax roots. These can be very obstructive to gameplay, so I tend to add it at like the beginning and end of rooms where there's no like intensive gameplay. And that's like pretty much fully decoed. Last bit of like entity deco, I have these like vines pretty neon. I think they look kind of cool. I have found that like natural deco, like a lot of foliage, trees, stuff, they tend to be more forgiving in like how you place them. So it tends to be easier. So if you ever want to, if you don't like care that much about deco, but you still want your map to look decent, try going for like a natural aesthetic. Those tend to be a lot easier, I think, to deco compared to something like a man-made, like human-looking indoors aesthetic. Those tend to be pretty hard to pull off well. So for this final room, what I'm thinking is I want to make it kind of like a recall to previous rooms. I'm not gonna make it too long. I'm not gonna make it too hard either. I'm gonna try and make it not the hardest room in the map. I think final room syndrome is very real. A lot of maps do tend to have it. I'm not completely innocent of this as well. Test chamber final room's pretty rough. Personally, I am kind of over final rooms being like ridiculously long and difficult compared to the rest of the map. Maybe it will be fun to revisit the idea in this room, which is like avoiding these refills. Yeah, I think this is definitely a case of my demons took over. This definitely doesn't feel like it's a move that like really makes you think too much. This is just kind of like do the thing in front of you, you know, which is fine. I can add a bit of cinematic flair to the final room. Yeah, I don't really like this room so far. Like, I know it's meant to be a recall to previous ideas, but I don't know, dude. I don't feel that great about this room for some reason. Like, every room in this map so far feels pretty cohesive, but I feel like this room's just like trying to do too much almost. I think that'll be the final room for now. I don't think it's the greatest room I've ever made, but it'll do. It has some like cinematic shit, I think, and I like the ending. The ending's pretty funny. Everything else I'm kind of whatever on, but I think that's just because that's more so due to the nature of the map feeling a certain way, and the final room not really feeling quite that way. We finished structuring this, and then decoing it, and then get playtesting, I guess. TyKim was down to make some music, which I'm very excited for. So we'll see how that goes. I should make this heart ultrable. And with that, the mapping portion has finally concluded, and all that was left to do before release was to get some feedback from playtesting, implement the music, and do some final polishes. So I got some playtesting. TyKim, who was very, very generous in offering to playtest and also going to be making the music for this map. I'm very, very excited for that. Basically, I just watched TyKim play over VC, and I took notes. He also gave some feedback. The good news is the map is fully playable from beginning to end. And I think TyKim had a good time, so that's the good news. The not so good news is we have a shit ton of feedback to address. Most of it is just small things I noticed while TyKim was playing. They weren't really even necessarily things that he raised. I actually went ahead and did a couple already, so I did most of checkpoint 1, I think. The majority of feedback I would say is in checkpoint 2. And then also something that TyKim mentioned that I was actually really happy that he said this is he felt like a lot of like the movement in this map felt like very conscious decisions that he had to make, which is good because that was exactly what I was going for. In general, it's usually like the first person that playtests my levels that I get the most amount of like meaningful feedback from. Like having multiple playtesters is for sure useful to see like where the pitfalls are. But usually for me, after the first pass, the level is like reasonably polished, and then after that is usually just like minor tweaks. Or a lot of the time it's like if someone gets stuck on a specific part, it's something that I already knew because the first playtester more than likely also got stuck on the same part. This room's fine, this tutorial room. This room has a lot of feedback. I remember I was doing some like weird bullshit with this to de-cheese something, but then I realized it didn't actually de-cheese anything. So then I just gave up. You could just reverse super there. I don't know why you would do that. It is way harder. And then the main issue that TyKim struggled with here is this like right dash into left dash. So it took a few attempts to realize that like, okay, breaking the block on the left isn't doing anything. That's fine. If the player makes that mistake, I want them to like make that mistake and make the conscious realization that like, okay, this is not the solution. I need to try something else. The issue is if you jump here, that kind of messes up the positioning. And then also if you grab here, that messes up the positioning. So I'm just going to do a couple of minor things to prevent that. Or maybe there's a way to like reframe this to make it like obvious that you don't have to jump. I think I might need to make this block slightly slower. I think that might be what threw TyKim off, because it feels like you need to like jump to reach it when you really don't. Like, is that more intuitive? I'm not sure. Yeah, like if you jump, you just die now. Previously, if you jump, you hit the top of the block and you like barely make it. No immediate feedback for this room. TyKim actually figured it out pretty quickly, which I'm pretty impressed at, because I expected this room to be one of the rooms that was kind of difficult to figure out. But I guess like at any moment in time, you really only have like 1 or 2 choices, and like it's pretty obvious which one's the correct one. Right, this room, apparently you can just which is really funny that I did not realize that. The goal I had with the design of this room was you hit this and you go like back in before it breaks, right? But I don't think that fully came across until I pointed it out to TyKim. Then it was really obvious. Because the thing with the first one, like here, this like double right dash, like this is really obvious because you really don't have like any other choice here. You have to like go back in. So I think TyKim might have just done that, like, you know, without thinking much about it. And then when you get to this part, you actually do have to make the conscious decision of like, okay, I need to go fast enough. Like if you jump here, you won't make it. What if I just get rid of the ice walls here? Because now, like, since you can grab on, I don't know, maybe it doesn't help at all. But my thought process is like, players will be like, okay, I can hold on to this. And then the process of like them holding on to this block will make the realization. I was like, okay, I need to like dash through it before it breaks again. Or maybe that won't help at all. I have no clue. And I think the last part is this move is quite unintuitive. This move took TyKim a while to figure out, and it was only after I mentioned, imagine there's a touch switch up here. So I am going to do that as a fix. I'm going to add a touch switch. I don't love this move here. Okay, post commentary coming in here because I explained this like shit in the live commentary. Basically, I categorize 2 styles of movement puzzles. One is built around discovering a single special interaction where the challenge is just figuring out the move, and the other is reading the room, using the layout hazards and your understanding of the mechanics to deduce the intended path. Both approaches work, but for this map I wanted the second one to be the focus, and that's why I'm not in love with this particular move. I think it falls closer into the first category. You don't really need to understand the room or the mechanics to do it. It's just kind of a neat trick once you figure it out. Alright, that's it. Back to live commentary. Like, once again, I think one philosophy I've had while designing a lot of these levels is like, they are misleading to a degree. Like, I want the players to make mistakes and like think about why it didn't work and then come to the correct conclusion naturally. But I also want to avoid players like getting stuck thinking their solution is for sure the right solution, because that's a really annoying, frustrating player experience, and I have experienced that many times. It doesn't feel good as a player, it doesn't feel good as a mapper. And here is another fault I realized. That move, I think I used it like once before this. I used a ton in like the rest of the rooms actually. I didn't even fully realize how many times I used it until I watched TyKim play. But that move, like where you dream dash into the reform block, is used one whole time before this, and I needed to like remind him that was a thing. So here's my solution to this. I am going to add it in this tutorial room, and it will be mandatory for you to perform this once, just as a little reminder that like, hey, this is a move you can do. TyKim died quite a few times to this ending move, and quite frankly, I don't like it that much either. I might just remove it. The reason I added this little dream block section at the end is because I wanted the player to realize that it's like, hey, you can bounce off dream blocks too, but like I feel like that's really obvious because this is the same thing as a reform block, right? It's like exact same properties. It moves. I don't think this is doing anything. It just feels terrible because it's like really precise. So we're getting rid of it. TyKim kept going to the right here, and it would ever so slightly mess up the timing. Like, this is one of those things I want to fix, where it's like, yeah, I want to give the player space, like open space to make mistakes and like realize they've made mistakes, but like this mistake isn't obvious. Like if you go to the right and you dash like left right, you might not realize that extra action is slowing you down, and it's causing like the rest of the room to slightly desync. Like it still works, it's still possible, it just doesn't feel good to do. I'm gonna make a copy of this room. That way I can always revert back to this old version if I fuck something up. So I think one thing here is that TyKim noted was the first time it took him a moment to like adjust for this move where you like jump to the right and then dash left. One suggestion was we give the player a bit more time to like rest and like basically figure out what they're trying to do here. This room, fuck. I might have to come to terms with something in this room, which is you don't have to jump off of the stream block still. I know this is something I tried so hard to de-cheese because I like the move, but you can still make it up there. It feels more comfortable to jump off the dream block, obviously. But yeah, you can just do that. Do we just give up on this dream block? Man, I don't want to give up on the dream block. I think it's cool. If you don't reuse it again, then it's kind of lame, because, like, I don't know. No one actually cares. It's a mapper thing. This room really is held together by, like, duct tape and dreams. Well, let it be known in this video that this room was once cooler. From my perspective. And probably no one else cares. Cool. I think that covers most of the feedbacks. In addition to TyKim's feedback, I was also able to get Spooky as another playtester on board, although the second time around had much less feedback to address, so I'll omit you the boring bits where I tweak hazards for 2 hours by 3 pixels to make a move 2% more consistent. And yeah, at this point I was pretty much just doing final polishes, like creating a map icon, finalizing the map metadata and mountain positions, and finally implementing the music after receiving it from TyKim, which was absolutely insane. Please go listen to the track TyKim made. It really brought the entire level together. I can't emphasize enough how good it is. It'll be linked in the description below. And just for fun, before I release the map, I did a golden attempt. What if I do 1 golden attempt? I do 1 golden attempt for fun. No! That was just my fault. Like, I can't even blame anyone for that. Well, I think I'm cooked. No! Oh, we ran through the whole map. Everything works. I think we're ready for release. I will probably release this tomorrow morning. Yay, exciting. Alright, I got all of the things set up. Publish. Boom. Yeah, I'm probably just gonna make like a modding showcase post. We did it! Map published and released. Woo! And yeah, that's it. That's the full journey. I hope this video was interesting, or at least entertaining to watch. It's definitely a bit of a departure from my usual video essay stuff, but I really wanted to show that, you know, that actual process of mapping and making something creative is way messier than what a 30-minute breakdown can make it seem, you know? It's very chaotic, it can be very inconsistent, you know, sometimes things work, sometimes they don't, and you just kind of have to adapt as you go. It's part of the process. I feel like I had more to say, but I'm kind of drawing a blank here. Sorry about the inconsistent mic quality for live commentary. Turns out I've never really done anything like this before, and when you record, I don't know, like 100 hours of footage of live commentary, there's bound to be some inconsistencies here and there. Or however long it took to make this map, I don't know. I'm fairly certain it's close to, if not over 100 hours though. So, you know, the fact that I cut this down to 1.5 hours is pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. Yeah, if you watch this whole thing, or even just, you know, skip straight to the end, thanks for being here. I really genuinely appreciate it. And if you played this map, Songkeeper's Grove, I really hope you had fun with it. I had a lot of fun making it. Alright, that's it. I'm going to sleep. Rest in peace, TyKim. Thank you for your canonical sacrifice in this map. Good night, y'all.